Hey everybody, welcome back to Mrs. Wizard's Way. And I've been in a bus the last couple of videos, but it is seriously hot out there. No bus video this week. So I'm sorry. So hot, tank top and ponytail for the day. But today we're going to talk about the history of Omega and how we almost didn't have an Omega Auto Clinic. Wow. So let's go and get started. So before we start, a couple of things. People have asked, what is this? This is called a birthmark, okay? No, people are like, oh, I need to fix it, I need to fix it. I can't put anything on it, I can't do anything with it. It's called a birthmark. I forget that it's there, but for you guys out there seeing it for the first time, you probably notice it more than I even do. So there you go, one thing about me. But let's get back to Omega. And it all started back in November of 2011. We lived on a small farm, and the wizard's like, I'm so tired of working. He was a machinist. He was running a Swiss turn lathe. He knew how to program them. He was making good bank. I was still teaching, so I was making it wasn't fabulous money as a teacher, but still good, consistent money every month. He's like, I've had enough. We have a shop on our property there, and he's like, hey, I want to open my own auto repair shop. I was like, okay, leap of faith. I'll be the breadwinner with my teacher income. Okay, so that was fine. We got the shop ready, and you remember I have a construction background. Well, the shop was used initially by my dad, and he ran a wood shop out of it. So it didn't have really high ceilings. You'll see in some of the pictures I might be putting up that it didn't have a very high ceiling, and it wasn't overly big, but it was a good place to start, and it didn't cost anything. We didn't have to rent anything. We didn't have to do much of anything, and he had tools. One thing he didn't have was a lift. We're like, okay, that was November 2011. And he's working. It took a little bit to get some customers going because he didn't have any customers because he was a machinist. And that's about the time we got in contact with Hoovy. That's a whole other story. But he had his dealership, and he loved blown head gasket Land Rovers and Mercedes with those hydraulic cylinders that would always break on those convertible tops. And so that is how the two of them got together, is fixing head gaskets and sending off to get those rebuilt. So, okay, so that was some good money. But then he's like, this is a lot of work. And about May in 2012, Wizard got a visit from one of the other local country mechanics out there. He had another shop about 4 or 5 miles from our house. And he's like, you know what, we should team up. And Wizard's like, maybe that's a good idea, because he had the skill to be a mechanic. We had the location, but we didn't have all that business stuff figured out yet. And it's like, okay. And he'd worked on about 150 cars between November and May. So we're talking about 6 months of work, 7 months. And he's like, okay, maybe that would be a good idea. So he goes in, we close our little shop, and we were discovering that it really wasn't working in that little space. It was really hard because it was just so small and so short. So he goes over to his, what he refers to as his mentor in all of the other videos. And there were actually two of them there. They were brothers. And the one who, the shop was on his property, on his house, he was the kind of the lead, and we've heard about Kenneth before. And there's also Vernon, and they were great guys. They showed a lot, gave Dave a lot of wonderful opportunities to learn about the trade and how to use different softwares and interacting better with customers. Those are the things he knew how to turn the wrench, but it is that other kind of things he needed to get caught up to. One sad thing is, while he was there, and he was there for, from 2012 to 2017, so about 5 years. It was good, steady income, which was really good, so he was learning a lot. But one sad thing was that while we were there, the other brother, Vernon, passed away. He had cancer, and it was so sad because he was such a great guy. We'd go to supper with him once a month or so, once every other month. It was great. So there were some good times there and some sad times. So February, it was actually the end of 2016, really, probably, we decided that maybe I want to open up my own shop. I think we know how to do it this time. We got this down. There's a little shop in Halstead, which is about 3 miles from where the farm was. And so he's like, okay, so we start working on that and getting some of the paperwork together, some of the advertising material together. That was in my domain. Just getting all those things set up, got the rental agreement together. Got a lot of the paperwork done again because it's opening a business. Got to do the stuff with the government. So we got that all done. And so we open up in February 2017. And it was good. It was a small little building. It was really funny because that building, you've seen it. You saw that building in the beginning of Hoovie's videos, you know, the death stare that the wizard did. Yeah, Hoovie's one of his first videos. That was shot in that shop. Also, the first issue of Car Issues was shot in that shop as well. And it was a really old building. It had the high ceilings, but it was pretty narrow. It only could fit maybe 2 cars if you were careful next to each other, but it could fit about 3 or 4 long ways because it's kind of a through shop. But initially, when it was built, it was actually a blacksmith shop. So it's kind of the irony of it was working on horses and horseshoes, and now it's working on what we drive today in cars. So that was kind of, Wizard always liked that because he likes old history stuff like that. So we were there 2017, beginning of 2018, we hire Crazy D. He helps with our car lot. We opened up a small car dealership there. And that was okay. There's a lot of paperwork with owning a car dealership. And you would not think there would need to be so much paperwork and documentation and documentation and paperwork and documentation, but for a car, but there is. And so that was a really big headache. And we decided that we needed to not really close that location. We moved from that location. So we closed that shop in June 2018. But before that, we were searching at the beginning, probably February. So we've been there almost a year. We're like, this is too small. We can't do this. This is the space. We thought it was going to be good. It looks so big. We thought this would be fabulous, but it was too small. Okay, so we start looking around, scouring maps. Even, was our building big enough? Can we look at we looked at any place you could sell real estate, anything, even, did a quick estimate on maybe if we had a building built, which was unbelievably expensive. And then we ran into this shop and we found this one, and that's a whole other story when Wizard's done that, but it was a perfect find. We thought, oh, well, this is too big. And we've talked about that and how everyone thought, oh, we've got to be crazy, how this is too big of a building. And sometimes it feels too big, but then sometimes you're like, crap, where are we going to put the next car? They're happier that the old transit bus is out of the shop right now because that was taking a huge amount of real estate off that floor. So we closed in Halstead in second week of June 2018. We opened in this spot July 5th, 2018. We were down 2 weeks between the two. And some of that is that we needed to get a few things moved and shuffled around in here. We had to get lifts installed. We needed to paint some things, kind of get some things generally just cleaned up. These office spaces, I'm in Crazy D's spot because this week I'm working at the shop because he's on vacation. So I'm at Crazy D's desk. But like the walls needed some repairs. Everything was needing help. Like the doors had to get painted. In the break room, I think they thought the wall above the trash can was a basketball, backboard, and just chucked things, and it was just, yeah, that was really bad. Didn't have some items like the door that's behind our main desk in our office space here. There was no door to go into the shop. And so we're like, if you wanted to go into the shop, you would have had to gone through the door and then all the way through in. Like, no, we need to have a door. So we put in a door, put in a window, put in a sink. There was no break room here. So we did some definite upgrades to the space. Nothing crazy other than a lot of paint. And I'll be honest, we were not YouTubing at this point, okay? This is the end of the first series of car issues. So, we were getting used to being on film, or like Car Wizard was used to being on film. But we weren't bankrolling like we were now that we've got the channel going. So, okay, we were like, how do we move into this space on the cheap end? So the paint, I said, what colors you got, Lowe's? What color you got pre-mixed? Oh, this is an exterior kind of a beige color, perfect, it'll go great in here. And so a lot of the paints were recycled paints from people who didn't like the first color. It's like, great, it'll work here, because I wasn't overly particular what the colors were going to be, as long as they looked okay. And there were some that I didn't choose because they were not the right colors, but I was able to find reduced paint on just mismatches, I guess. We just did a lot of elbow grease cleaning. We scoured a lot on Marketplace. At the Halstead shop, it came with a front desk, a very small front desk. So we never had to provide that. But here there was nothing. And so I found a really nice front desk on Marketplace. And it's really nice, really heavy duty. And it was like, hey, got it for like $80. So it did take some time. And knowing that we were going to be moving, we had time to get things done. Not everything had to be done on the first day of opening either, but we tried our best. So that was July 5th, 2018. So we've been here for a few years now. And during that time, we were, as I said, was Omega going to make it? Well, there was some time there where he closed. We had the little shop. Was there a time it was ever on the brink of, hey, we're never going to make payroll? No, we weren't doing that. We were always able to make our payroll and make our bills. But there was that time where it was at the farm, it was awfully hard. It was kind of him waiting on that first couple of weeks of, am I going to have a customer? Because he didn't have any customer base at that time. We now have a customer base. We have you guys, which we absolutely adore and love. But now we feel much more confident. The building space is next door to us. There's a field lot, and then there's another building. And so Omega was actually able to expand. Now, we didn't expand the business into those spaces, but we expanded what the business had. And the grass lot has now been taken over by Crazy D. He gets to sell ag equipment in there, which is great because that's a great side hustle for him. And he has a friend who has a lot of equipment as well. They like to go to auctions and see what they can, rehab, refix up, put out there on the lot and sell to local farmers. So that's one addition we have. The other addition is the building next door. We do own and we rent that out to another company. And so the three spaces, this building, the lot, and that other building, was owned by the same gentleman. And we were able to, sold us this building initially, and then he came by a couple years later because he's learned through the tax man, don't sell everything all at once. Came back a couple years later and said, hey, you guys want to buy the next door spots? We're like, yeah, maybe we do. I think that would be a good investment to kind of own these spaces. And being that we're not the mean landlords next door, but sometimes it's nice to have the space just to keep an eye on things. We haven't had rain in a while, but one thing we watch for is when it does rain a lot are the pull down where you back up your loading dock. Is that getting to be a swimming pool? Sometimes got to make sure. They don't always have the automatic drain, as we guys say, hey, your loading dock is going to become a swimming pool pretty soon. You might want to go drain that. So just nice to have just check on the space next door. So that's one thing that we have added to the Omega collection. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to outgrow this space. This space is large enough. It definitely helps that BenPack has supported us in getting lifts. Those lifts are great, especially since we can now double stack cars. So we have all those spaces that cars can, we don't have to, if they're going to be in there for a little bit, we can actually say, hey, we're going to put this on the top lift, we can still park something underneath, which gives us a lot more real estate. Because sometimes it takes a while either to get back to a project, the Chevelle, or the cars that just take forever to get some parts. Wizards was just researching on how long it's going to take to get the timing belt for the Esprit out there, and he says it could take 4 to 6 weeks. It's like, oh my goodness. So he's looking to find better avenues for that, but sometimes parts do take a long time, especially when they have to come across the pond. So we need to kind of move them off so we can work on something else while they're waiting for their parts. So that's it. That is the history of Omega. There were never times that we were going to close the doors, you didn't have the bills paid. We had that covered. But there was a lot of times where we had to sacrifice, though, because sometimes he wasn't making all the money. And so there were some times where we're like, we're going to be eating in. We're not going out to eat this weekend, which was okay. It was a nice learning experience. And neither of us grew up with lots of money, so we knew that there were times we had to sacrifice, and there were times that we needed to say, okay, maybe we can eat at home and not go out to Olive Garden. Okay. But there's times now that we're definitely happy with where we're at. So hopefully that helps understand who and what Omega is and where we came from. But I wanted to definitely get you guys that story out there. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'm going to go back to the bus. Hopefully next week the forecast isn't quite as high as it is this week. This week was 110, 115. Next week's in the 90s. So I hopefully can get back and get more updates and hopefully give you an update on that water damage on the other side of the bus. I'm a little worried. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye.